Hello, welcome.
Hello. Hi. It's good to see
Hello,
you, Martha.
you too. So, welcome to everybody to this conversation, which is going to be with Maura McBratney, who I am so happy to have here. Maura is going to be talking with us about sacred union and cultivating sacred union, and specifically what is valuable to her about sacred union and how it applies within ourselves and then also with others, and then how that applies to the outside world as well. So before we start, I just want to read a little bit about you, Maura, so people can know who you are, at least on certain levels. So Maura is an ordained minister whose ministry emphasizes creating sacred union, energy healing, individual coaching, and ritual. With the death of her husband and life partner in 2015, there was a cataclysmic shift in her life. Through the grieving process, reflection of their life together, her own inner process, as well as incorporating all of her learnings and experiences, Maura has come to an expanded threshold of exploring what it means to create sacred union with self and other. And then there's so much more also in your bio. And I know we're going to touch on a lot of your own personal life, your own personal journey with sacred union, how that applies to the work you do now and what you're passionate about bringing to the world, and to this symposium.
And she definitely did
I'm so
symposium.
happy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. First, I'd like to really thank you, Martha, for creating this and listening to your own call. I'm thrilled to be a part of this and feel very honored. That since the masculine, feminine, that relationship of opposites has been something that's moved me for all my life, or most of my life at least. How to integrate that, how to be within yourself with your own masculine and your own feminine, because we all have that, and how important it is to have a relationship with them so that we can know what those primary dynamics are within ourselves, because I feel like they are primary dynamics. And one of the reasons I think that is because years ago I read in Eat, Pray, Love, I read a little excerpt from it. And she was talking about a psychologist friend of hers who had been in the refugee camps in Cambodia. And these people had lost everything. They had lost their homes, they'd lost their, livelihood, they've lost lives of people they loved. And she said the psychologist told her that one of the things that she ended up getting the most questions from was, do you think he likes me? Do you think I'll find my partner? Do you think that, how do I work this out in my relationship? And I'm like, oh my God, like, right?
Right. Wow.
It's that primary. They've
Mm.
lost everything, but that's primary, to be connected. And that's the truth. We are wired for connection, all of us. And how we want to connect is, of course, our own pathway in our own journey, our own life. But I've found in my life that connecting, of course, with myself, but then with a primary other, is one of the most intimate and vulnerable ways to live, and most growth producing. So when Tom and I met, that time I was 32 years old, had been married and divorced twice, was a single mother. And then I met him. And, through a series of events, it was kind of a funny situation. I won't go into the whole story, but he kind of pissed me off. So I ended up making myself sound really bad. So I told him, I said, yeah, I've been married and divorced twice and I have 2 kids. And he goes, oh, I guess you can teach me something about relationship. And I went,
wow.
Totally disarmed me, as he did many times throughout our lifetime, and my little defensiveness. And yeah, that's what we did. And so we both had been divorced, and things hadn't worked out. And so we knew we had to do something different. And we didn't know how. This was in the 80s. It's like a long time ago. And what we did after a couple of weeks is we made a commitment to each other to nurture and support the other's spiritual growth as well as pursuing our own. And that vow, that commitment is something that we kept for the entire 30 years that we were together.
Yeah.
And it took us on lots of different turns and twists, but our souls, were able to dance together and also enlarge individually, as well as create what I call like the third thing, which is the sacred relationship that actually at some level, at some time ends up dancing you instead of you dancing it. So it becomes where you are in service to the relationship and in service to how that relationship serves in the larger context.
I'm getting chills.
Good.
Mhm.
So, and incumbent in that is that, like that statement that you're going to support another person's growth as well as, doing your own is there's two promises in there. One is you're going to support someone else's growth. And the other one is you're going to do your own.
Mm.
Just kind of like what Jesus said when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. People always miss that as yourself part.
Which means you love yourself.
Yeah, you love yourself. Exactly. And so for me, with creating sacred unions, it's imperative that people are doing their own inner work. They don't have to have it all finished before they go into a relationship. That's not possible. And you'll grow more in a conscious relationship than you will by yourself anyway, I think. But and people could argue that, but I think that because you're going to hit every trigger, right? Your triggers, your trauma, they're all going to come up within the context of the relationship. And if you use those as points of growth and the conflict as points of growth, then, and stay honest and authentic with what's going on for you, and your partner does the same thing, lots of big things can happen. Lots of big things can happen. And it becomes, for me, a life of joy. It becomes a place where, even though there's conflicts and there's things going on, but if you have those tools, you can weather the storms better. So
wonderful. So when you, I'm wondering if we can just back up. When you say, you talk about sacred union, what is that for you? What do you mean?
Okay, so creating sacred union, it's the embodiment of two people who are committed to each other and their growth, I think. And at that point, it's saying the relationship is important. There's a commitment involved in it, not just a commitment. So say we're married and that's it. And you don't have to be married. Marriage is not a requirement for it.
Right.
But it's a conscious decision on both of each other's parts to say, this relationship is important. You are important. I'm important. I'm going to stay in this and see what happens. In the work, in the course that I'm now have developed and I'm teaching, it came through lots of this came through a lot of meditations, that this would be the focus of my work, because I've done lots of work in the divine feminine. I wrote a thesis, many years ago now, that was about a woman have initiatory rites of finding their inner priestess, because that was my path. And in that, of course, I got in touch with all the paradigms and the patriarchy and the denigration of the feminine, and the ways in which, without honoring the feminine, we were not honoring the earth. We're not, women's chattel, all of those things, all these important things, and they're still happening, unfortunately. Yep. So for me, that was my path to really understand that and know what it was for me in my life. When I first looked at that thesis, I couldn't even, when I looked at the word priestess and the internet, and I didn't get anything back. I mean, literally, there was hardly anything.
And when was this? This was
1998, 97, 98.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah. Now you get lost. But when I was, at the beginning, no, there wasn't. I mean, at that point, yeah.
And that honestly,
or
that's
like
not.
voodoo priestesses, you know, that's you get back voodoo priestesses. That was what
Oh wow.
you get back and stuff. Yeah.
That says so much though of how far we've come.
Yes.
Not, I mean, you know, I guess to 25-year-olds, 1998 is a long time ago, but to me, that is not very long ago.
Either.
At all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. But that is a short period of time to come so far. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Amazing.
And the basic thing that what I found, or what I, you know, when I asked the question, what does it mean to be a postmodern day priestess, was what are the initiatory ways? You know, there used to be a whole system set up where we would, you know, people would be indoctrinated and they would be shown and they would be, you know, ordained or, you know, sacralized or whatever. We didn't have any of that. And what came back was that it's our inner work.
Mm.
That's our initiatory processes.
Mm.
As we encounter the different things in our life, they become our initiatory processes. So, so given all that, again, after Tom died, I didn't know what I was going to do. And through a lot of inner work, sacred union started coming up. And I said, oh, great, that'll be easy to teach. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much. You always give me good stuff. So that was kind of my first reaction. And then as I just sat with it, there's these 4 principles that came forward from meditation and just reading some things. And those two, so what I teach now is 4 pillars that are called embodied soul, which is about your own inner work. How do you become embodied? The next one is conscious love, which is that commitment to the growth and to using conflict to grow, to be able to stay toe to toe with each other in an authentic way. The next one is sacred sexuality, which I look at as, there's many levels to this, but what's one of the most essential pieces is that it's your life force energy. And it's yours. And it's yours to cultivate, and it's yours to make sure that you take care of. And then you bring that to someone else. And involved, of course, intimacy is involved with that. And intimacy is like trust, authenticity, and presence, you know, the vulnerability to be able to be present in that moment, in those moments. And then the last one is embracing the beloved, which in some ways happens as you're going through these other places where you're embracing your own inner beloved, as well as embracing the outer beloved in whatever form that is. And that from that place is that third, the relationship is created. Something larger than the 2 people has happened at that point. They're in service to each other, their relationship, and the larger community.
Beautiful. So can you break that down? Just go back over those 4 again, and just and talk a little more about each one, especially you started with the embodiment. I was curious to hear more about
embodied soul, and that came embodied soul. And one of the it's what's really funny is I'll start getting, I go, oh, that's really, you know, recently I'll go, oh, that's a good phrase, I'll have to remember that. And then I go back and I find notes that I wrote 20 years ago that said the same thing. So it's pretty funny that I'm getting it back. I'm getting reminded, you know, by everything. But one of the things that I watched an interview with Heather, actually, and Heather Ensworth and Barbara Hand-Clow.
Oh,
and
yes, I've been wanting to watch that one.
it's beautiful. And in that, Barbara, who actually I met like when I was first starting out on my journey in 1986 or something, I met her actually at a conference I was at, which is pretty amazing. But she wouldn't remember me, but she was impressive at that point. So even so, and she made a comment in there because they're talking about what's going on in the world today and everything. And she kind of said, well, you know, they can't touch you if you're an embodied soul. They could kill you, but they're not going to throw you off. They're not going to be able to use the propaganda. They're not going to be able to, you know, change your mindset, because if you're an embodied soul, you have what you need to be in alignment with who and what you are.
And they meaning just anybody.
You know, yeah, you know, the media, you know, anything that's now, you know, kind of trying to control things. Anyone that's trying to control you, your thought processes, your belief systems in any form. Yeah. And I thought, God, that's really a great statement.
Mm.
And so, and then, so that started coming in. And so for me, embodied soul is about your own inner work.
Mm.
And I'm trying to remember now, I have points as I'm teaching a class, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, okay, so know thyself, Oracle of Delphi, right? And there's lots of different ways to know yourself, right? There's lots of different things. There's looking at your trauma, looking at your triggers, you know, getting astrology readings so that you can find out what your patterns are that you were born in with. But know thyself. Take time to know yourself.
Mm.
And then the other one that came through, these are kind of cliche, but to thine own self be true. And that is, you know, Shakespeare, of course, but it's about our value system. What do you value? What's important to you? You know, what's the lines for you? Where are your boundaries? And the other one is about your relationship with your body in general. Like how do you, what is that? How do you cultivate a relationship that feels alive and permeable, like, you know, not just treat it like an object, because that's what's happened to the patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
Bodies have gotten treated, especially women's body, as the object,
Right.
you know. And I mean, we've done it ourselves. I was just telling, and when I had the class, I was just reading an excerpt from my thesis, where I realized I was the perpetrator and the you know, as the victim and the perpetrator to my own body,
Yourself to
to
ourselves,
myself.
right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
because eventually, right, we're in that soup. We're in that cosmological soup, that this you know, morphic field that we're in. That's the patriarchy, right? And it affects us. It affects how we look at ourselves. It affects how we relate to other people, how we relate to our bodies. So it's really important that we take time, because that's how it reflects how we're connected to the earth also.
Absolutely. And everything, really.
And everything, right? And you know, yeah. So it's all of that. And then the other part was a big piece of self-care. Like, to me, self-care, you know, you hear that all the time now, and it's important. But I think what I'd like to say about that is, self-care is doing what you need to do in the moment, whatever that is. You know, if it's laying down and on the floor and doing nothing, that's what you do. If you need to go to a movie, that's it. You know, you have to know yourself well enough and know what your body needs, right? And your psyche needs to be able to know what self-care is needed in the moment.
So they all kind of go together.
They all go together. Exactly. So that's a basic idea with that. It's a lifelong journey. This is not something I'm going to teach in a class and you're going to be done. You know, it's a commitment to self in that moment.
So that all is under the umbrella of
embodied soul. Right. Yeah.
And then step 2 again was
conscious love.
Conscious love.
And conscious love in general, it is that commitment to growth of yourself and other. That's a very simply way to do. John Wellwood wrote, who's a psychologist that I just thought was fantastic. He's gone now, but he wrote several books about, I think it's called Love and Awakening. I've got it here somewhere. Yeah, Love and Awakening and The Journey to the Heart. This is a great book for anyone to read about conscious love. And it's actually, unbeknownst to us, it's the commitment Tom and I made, you know, in our first meeting, or a few weeks after knowing each other. But what I can tell you, by making that commitment, we really sustained an alive and deep and meaningful relationship for 30 years.
Wow.
Was it without difficulty? No, it was not. Was it without conflict? No, it wasn't. Was it with a lot of joy? Yeah, it was. You know, did we love each other deeply? Yes, we did. So I guess the message I would say to people is, it's so worth making those kind of commitments to yourself and other, and then stay authentic in that, to stay true and to yourself, and to allow the other person to be authentic in their and whatever's going on for them, right? Because otherwise you don't have a basis, you have no ground. If someone's trying to appease someone else, or get mad about everything that someone else says, or they're not cultivating an environment that allows fostering deeper love and deeper understanding of each other.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say Tom and I never yelled at each other. That is not the case. We did.
Yeah.
But we also came back later
Mm.
and said, okay, what do we really need to do about this?
Mm.
And that's the key. It's not going to be perfect. Another part of I look in that is attachment styles.
Mm-hmm.
How what the attachment styles people have for the, I don't know if I can ring them off, but there's the avoidant, the anxiety attachment style, the fearful one, and also secure attachment style. And there's a lot of great quizzes on the internet. People
Mm.
put out a lot of good things. So you can go there and you can take those tests and find out what your predominant style is. Everyone will have probably a little bit of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth looking at, because if you understand how you need to feel connection, because that's basically what attachment style is, how do you need to feel connection and how do you try and get connection, right? And then you have someone else who's like, if you're an anxiety and you've got an avoidant, that's not going to be a lot of fun.
Right.
There's going to be some work to be done there, because anxiety is you want to keep going towards the person and see if you can like get connected to them, and how do you do that and all that. And the avoidance like, yeah, I need my space.
And they bolt.
And
Yeah.
they bolt. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's an educational piece that I wanted to bring in, because even though the other work is softer because it depends on each couple, but still it's having the consciousness and the tools. I'm trying to remember, there was like several points. It's like growth is the main thing, responsibility for your actions, honesty. I can't remember, I had 4 points under it in the class, but that's what conscious love is. And instead of saying, okay, we need to learn to communicate, which always I would go, oh God, please.
Uh-huh.
Because there was prescribed ways you had to do it, right? And you had to listen. I mean, you do have to listen, but I just like the more organic way where you've made a commitment that's bigger. And then you kind of let it flow, and I think it works better. For me, it does.
So, so the focus is not so much like rules about use I statements and do active listening in this prescribed way. It's more, here's the central the central value or motivation I'm coming from, and I'm committed to that motivation in myself in this relationship. And so naturally my actions will come from that place of love and
Exactly.
commitment. Yeah.
Right. And value of the relationship. Right.
And value of the person, the other person, and
the person and the relationship both. Right.
And
exactly.
Loving ourselves, yeah, okay, right.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And it's a much richer exchange at that point. It might not be perfect, and you might not, but who cares what perfect is? There's no perfect anyway. So
right. Yeah. I agree. I mean, when I think about relationships in general, and I imagine a person following a script, they could be following the script great, but if they're not coming from a genuine place of love and caring about the partner or the relationship, then those words they're saying are absolutely meaningless and could actually
be more detrimental. Exactly. Be more detrimental. Exactly. I agree.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And sacred sexuality, you would think that that's self-explanatory, but I don't think it really is, because I don't think we understand sexuality in the way that it's a life force energy. Again, a primal life force energy.
Right. Absolutely.
That runs, up through our, root chakra, all the way up through the crown of the chakra. And I know, Tantra has a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm more interested a little bit in exploring what it looks like in the Western sphere, because I think we've lost it a lot.
Yes.
We've gone very much individual,
individual
into our brain, our mind. And also, the ascetic or the monks and the nuns have been placed as being higher and more holy than us because of because of the carnality of sexuality. And I think it's been misdirected on purpose, but I won't get into that right now because it's too big of a subject, and rather not get burned at the stake right now.
It's all good. You're safe here.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know who's going to see it. Anyway, I think that our Western sexual sacred sexuality has been ripped from us and taken and not depicted correctly.
Mhm.
And so I think it's time to own that and find out what does that really mean. So what I haven't, so as I'm looking at this class, it's about, again, and it relates back to embodied soul. The primary energy is a life force energy that is to be cultivated and kept alive and honored as sacred
Yeah.
within yourself. And then in that way, there's another person and honoring the same way. And it's not about what you do.
Mhm.
Whatever sexual acts you do doesn't make any difference, right?
Mhm. Right.
It's the consciousness with which you come forward with that this is I am sacred and they are sacred, and then we come together and see what we create together, because there is a third thing again created in the sacred sexuality, not just a child, that's possible, but it's also energy. We're creating a field around us at that point of our togetherness and what that means, and it extends out of the bedroom, right? I mean,
Right.
then it goes bigger. It's how we end up interacting with each other all the time.
Absolutely.
There's that aliveness
Mhm.
in each one of us, knowing that we're cherished, knowing that we're loved, knowing that the body is loved. I mean, there's just a lot to it, and very important. Um, so yeah,
And I was gonna, is it okay if I say, are you about to say something?
absolutely. No, no, I was pausing for
Okay.
once.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is part of it for you, but for me, a big part of that, the acknowledgement of divine sexuality as being creative life force energy, is that it really shifted my own life when I realized that. And
Mhm.
when I began to cultivate that energetic in my own system. I
Yes,
mean, regardless of whether I was with another person or not, right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
yeah, it became the actual literal engine of my energetic system. Again, not
Mhm.
about, having sex. It's about realizing that we are literally of source. Created source is life force energy. That's literally what it is.
Yes,
That is what we're made of. That's what this planet is made of. That's what stars are made of. That's what galaxies are made of. That's what anything in existence is made of. Every cell comes from
exactly,
that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so
And the opposites coming together. Opposite.
mm,
That's where the poles of opposites coming together to
mm,
create that third thing. I mean, you
mm,
can't get electricity unless you've got a male and a female part. And I'm not using that pejoratively. I mean, that's what they call them, right? I mean, we all have masculine and feminine within us, but that igniting that masculine and feminine within us ends up making the difference for the life force energy, being able,
mm,
being able to contain it and cultivate it.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, and even just simply that energetic, like for me it's two different but interconnected things. So for me personally, it was first discovering, oh right, like that same energetic that is source, that creates all of life, literally created me, number one, and number
Mhm.
two, it is in my body. It is my body, but it also is in my body, and I can actively engage with
Mhm.
the spiral of the the light,
Yes,
going up
yes,
my body.
yes,
Again,
yes.
not it is not about having sex. It can be sexual, but it also is just simply I don't know what's an analogy. I mean, it's like you can go, it's a certain kind of energetic workout or something. It's like
It is, and
yeah,
I would say, and it's okay if it's sexual too. I
right. It
would
is
just
exactly
add that.
right.
I mean,
Right.
because there is something about it that uh, it's intimate. I,
Mhm.
working with that life force energy within yourself is intimacy with yourself in some ways.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Yes. Yes. Thank you. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then part of what shifted for me when I discovered that energetic in myself is that for me, it then created this whole, I guess you could call it toroidal field or whatever, but as it
Mm-hmm.
sense of
Yeah.
of energy regenerating itself continuously in my
Right.
system. So
Right.
I became much more self contained, like self
Yes. Yes.
whole
Yes.
in myself.
Yeah.
So then when I do want to or do choose to engage with another
Mm-hmm.
human,
Yeah.
it's such a different experience because I'm not looking to them to get energy. I already have
Right. Right. Totally.
infinite source of energy going on, cultivated and moving
Right.
constantly. And so I'm not trying to take something from them. I don't want, actually, when I'm in that state of being, I don't want to take anything from them.
Right.
I want
Right.
to just engage as an equal.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
ideally with someone else who also has their own thing going on. So they're not trying to take anything. So we can then come together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
And
engage.
that's the dance. That's the
Mm,
dance then, right? The dance of
mhm,
souls and bodies in a different way, right? In a
yeah.
complete way.
And it's so much more relaxing, than the drama that I think, if
Mhm.
you're wanting to take something from someone else, you can get into all kinds of power dynamics and
Absolutely.
fear
And
dynamics and
mhm. And that's
yeah.
why like being an embodied soul is so important, because knowing yourself, right?
Mm,
As you know yourself more, you don't look to have someone else fill you.
mm,
I mean, that was true in my relationship with Tom. We knew we were two individuals. And though we were close and intimate in many, many ways, we really respected each other's individual rights as a person, as a
mm,
soul to have their own path. And I
mm,
think when you feel that inside yourself, when you're in alignment with that, you don't go looking for energy to fill you up from have someone else's energy fill you up.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you too. That was beautiful with the torque. I'll like that a lot. That was great.
Yeah.
Very good. And then the other part of that, there might be more, I'm still working on it, but but the intimacy
Mm,
and that deep longing, and desire we have to be seen
yeah.
and heard and accepted for who we are.
Mhm,
And I think in the sacred sexuality, that's especially, and that particular principle is especially poignant and rich, just
mm,
very rich, right?
mm,
Because in that place, you're seen by that person or persons, depending on what your thing is, but you have the opportunity, and they have the opportunity to really be truly naked in terms of your soul.
right.
So they see you, they love you, they
Mhm.
accept you, the vulnerability is there.
And you can
And
let down layer after layer after layer after layer. It can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah.
exactly. And then your authentic self, you're the person that doesn't have all the defenses and things, can be free, can be seen and really cherished.
Mhm. And then again, it feels like, of course, there would be a parallel process to doing that with yourself and doing that with
Absolutely.
the other, because you can only go as
Yes.
far with the other as you can go with yourself.
Absolutely. No. And that's kind of they're not exactly like the Russian dolls, but it's kind of like that, right? I mean,
Mhm,
they keep referring back and forth to each other because that is, yes, exactly.
mhm,
Because you're not going to be, unless you can get to your own core and be in alignment with who and what you are. It's very difficult to access your vulnerability
right.
because we've got a lot of defenses around making sure we stayed safe, and there's reasons for that at the
Right.
time. It's just at a certain point in our lives they become encumbrances instead of helpful,
Mhm,
and that's when we want to start really, you know letting go the gate, open the gateways more, letting down, find out how we need to be able to be more truly who we are, and then in that place be in vulnerability, meeting another.
wow. Yeah. I'm having this image of like, if you're walking on a piece of land or something and you're I don't know, your destination, I guess, is the farmhouse or something. And you're on the path and you come to a series of gates, I mean, I guess it's also similar to the descent of Inanna.
Yeah, very similar to this.
Yeah, very,
just gonna
very,
say
very,
that. Yes,
very similar.
Very good story.
But whatever, take the farm or the descent of Inanna, either one. The descent of the underworld or walk on a farm or wherever you want. But no, you come to whatever gate it is, and you can recognize, like, in that relationship, like there's the descent of Inanna that we do in ourselves when we go deeper and deeper and deeper into ourselves. But I'm imagining, of course, I hadn't thought of it this way, also in relationship with another human.
Yes.
When you come to that gate, probably most of us initially will have a reflex to fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
Yeah. One of those trauma responses. And and then it's an opportunity, like you were saying, even meeting conflict with consciousness and using it as an opportunity for growth. I can't remember your exact words.
Yes,
but
that was basically it.
Yeah, but even if we come to one of those gates in ourself, something in the relationship triggers something, and we want to pause and we want to freeze against or flee or whatever against going any deeper with this person. That could be a good signal that we shouldn't. That's a possibility. Or it could be a moment when we can notice, why am I scared of this gate?
Right.
And then
somehow what did get triggered in me? Right. What is my lesson here? And actually the reality is that whether you stay with someone after you've been triggered or not, it's always, what is my lesson here?
I love that. Yes.
It's always that. It's always like, okay, I'm having a reaction. I'm not neutral about this. What's going on? And it's about taking it back inside in a reflective way and say, okay, what's really true here for me? Is it something I need to work on? Is it something that that's not mine? Whatever it is, until you can come to some level of understanding of, yes, this is a good thing for us to be able to resolve this in some way. And at least, if nothing else, for the other to get understanding as to why it triggers you, minimum.
Right.
Might not be able to solve everything, but you at least want to try and understand each other and why that's a triggering event.
Yeah. Absolutely. Beautiful. So, does that complete divine sexuality?
Pretty.
I mean, for the moment,
I think we did pretty good on that. Okay. Actually. Yay.
Great.
The next one is not embody.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can try to remember.
Embracing. I got stuck on the E word. Embracing the beloved.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so this is a little more etheric. I mean, in some ways, when those words even are, but really, like one of the things I'm doing in the class that I'm teaching right now is I'm doing a guided meditation and having each person go inside and pull up their inner feminine and their inner masculine and see what they get, and see how they relate to each other, and what do they look like, and what's the energies and that kind of thing. In fact, that's the free gift that I gave to everybody. I did the guided meditation, so everyone can do this. And I thought at the time, I'm like, I got told this is what I need to do. I'm like, God, no one's going to want to do that, right? It's like you can't believe what's coming out of that group. I'm just like, I'm in awe.
Wow.
I'm in awe. And that maybe is a fundamental way to start embracing the inner beloved, right? I mean, and what the relationship is, and how that, as that changes inside, how does your outside relationships change? Because I think they do.
Absolutely.
So that would be one of the core points there, is the inner relationship, the inner beloved, that embracement of the inner beloved. And and seeing the conflict. I mean, the first time the first times I brought mine up, they hated each other. I'm like, oh, great.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it was not good. It was
Wow.
not good. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And that
Hmm.
was another concern I had. So, but it makes sense with my history. Some of it makes sense with the, you know, more denigrated feminine, so integrated within my psyche and soul and body. And of course, my male at that time was a military man, right? So like, of course, that's the industrial complex, right? So military industrial complex. So yeah, but they eventually danced together. I stayed with it.
Hmm.
Eventually they did dance. They softened towards each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
So
but mhm.
is a component of what you are doing with people helping them, I'm assuming, find that inner feminine and
Yeah,
masculine
yeah, it's
and find
amazing it's amazing what's happening. I'm just in awe of what's coming forward,
yeah.
actually.
Well, and I did that kind of work in myself a year ago, and it
Hmm.
literally changed my life. I
Hmm.
mean,
Wow, good.
like
Yeah,
no turning back. I can't,
right.
earth shattering in a great way.
Yeah, no, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. And that's what's happening here too. So
Mm,
it's so that's one component of embracing the beloved. The other one is like what I talked about, the dancing of the two, of self and other, and where you've done some of this other stuff, you're committed to your inner growth, you're working your conscious relationship, you're involved in the intimacy of being vulnerable and sacred sexuality and all that, and through those, as they're circuitously going around through each other, right? I mean, I think this is what happens. There's an embracement there. I remember a time when I was there was a conference Tom and I went to every year at Christmas time, and you'd see the same people there. It was really fun. Anyway, and so when someone said, "Well, how's your relationship?" and I go, "I have no idea. It has
mm,
a life of its own," and
yeah.
that was true.
Mm,
It became the container under which what needed to happen to us, for us as individuals,
mm,
was held. We were held within that, and could move through to something deeper as we worked through the conflict or whatever it was,
mm,
because we had cultivated enough with each other to have that third thing, that third relationship. And I think, and then what happened later in our lives as we went along and some of our individual stuff got more calmed down, what we became is kind of a I mean, I didn't think about it this way, but a lot of people would talk about how being with us, helped inform them of their own relationship or what they wanted
wow.
in a relationship, because we were just being us,
Mhm,
of what we had cultivated, but we were in service to the larger collective of
mm,
that was around us,
mm,
and because of what we had cultivated.
mm. So when people would see you as a couple, what do you think they were seeing or sensing or feeling? Like what would they be reacting to if they said something like that to you?
I think one of the things is how authentic we were with each other.
Mm,
If he didn't like something, I was saying we didn't. It's not like we had. Well, sometimes we had fights, but it's not like we were trying aggressive towards each other. But like we were just like, no, I don't think that's going to work. I'm not. People aren't normally used to people just saying what they feel and
mm,
having not having a big explosion around it, right?
mhm.
And so I think the authenticity, and that they could feel how deeply we loved and respected each other,
Oh,
because we did.
yeah. So
And I
good.
think, and it created, it just, I think that was a lot of it also, you
Mm,
know. And I think also maybe, I don't know, they never said that, but also maybe because we didn't live out of each other's pockets, right? I mean, we were both individuals, and
mhm,
yet we were deeply connected and deeply loved each other. So there
mm.
wasn't this enmeshment thing with us. We didn't have that going on
Would you
by
say
design.
Mhm. Would you say it would be accurate to say you were sovereign beings of yourselves,
Yes.
yet choosing to be together?
Together, and create what was the dance between us. I mean, the relationship was created from the dance between the two of us. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly that.
And I think, I mean, when you're talking about the dance between you and that sort of third thing, can you describe that third thing a little bit more? Like what does that feel like? What does that look like?
I think, I think the relationship itself is one of the things, right? I mean, is that, whenever two opposite things come together, a third thing's created, and a third thing is like something new. It's a creation of some kind. It's like the child between a man and a woman when they have a child, or a creative project that comes from two people coming together, and that's their child, right? So they're more like, they're good apart, but they're better together. And in that, something new is created. Wow. And the relationship's part of that, but it can also be, some kind of creative endeavor. It can be, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else it could be, but I mean, a creative endeavor is huge because it could be lots of different, it could be a lot there. So it's kind of, to me, it's an energetic thing. So when two energies come together, they create something different. They could create a third thing that's part of both of them, but not just them. And it's bigger and it's more expanded, and it affects more. And so one of the things that, because we haven't really talked about the collective and all of this, but I mean, I believe firmly that every single person who does their inner work affects the collective.
Definitely.
And affects where we're going, and affects whether we make this transition that's coming. When you have couples who are doing the same thing, it exponentially goes up more, and they're affecting their families and their children and the families around them, and then their communities, and then it goes out to the collective in general. And we are energetically affecting whether or not we're going to be able to make this shift or not, by doing our own work and being in conscious relationship with one another. And it doesn't have to just be couples. I mean, you can be in conscious relationship with friends, right? I mean, it's different somewhat, but I mean, I go to the because I think the intimacy in a more romantic, I'll call it romantic relationship, is deeper. It can be because of the sexual component.
Right, definitely.
So, but adopting this as a philosophy of how to live with everybody makes a huge difference. And I can tell you for myself, it makes me feel like I can. I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. I mean, I for years would never say a word to anybody. In groups, or I mean, it just wasn't my thing. And the more I felt like I was in myself, and the more I felt aligned with myself, the more I could come forward and just be in the moment of who I am at that time. And if someone likes it, that's nice. And if they don't, oh well. That's life, right? I mean, that's life. But I know every time I do something, I am adding to the collective energetic component, whether it's negative or positive, actually.
Right.
But I try to be cleaner about it and make sure that I'm doing it in a way that's adding love to the collective, because that's really what I think we're here to do, is to love each other. And in that way, it's expanding, and we go to that next paradigm, which I hope I get to see some of before I kick it. But of tolerance, love, egalitarian relationships, embracing our bodies, embracing the earth, radiating love in a way that wouldn't even allow us to do the things that are going on at this point. If everyone was really in true love with themselves, acceptance with themselves, really, 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 truly, we couldn't do the things that are getting done in the earth right now, to the earth, or to each other.
Right. All the wars. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
All of it.
Yes. All the wars and the racism and
I was just about to say, right, exactly.
Yeah, the racism and trying to take away women's rights, and I mean, none of that would be possible.
Right.
it wouldn't be in our consciousness to allow us to, you couldn't do it.
Yeah. It just wouldn't make
No.
sense at
So
all.
everything we can do to add to that in all of our own small ways adds up. And
You
I
know,
think it make the difference.
as you're speaking, something's clicking for me on a personal level, just name it,
Mm-hmm.
which is I, in my own life, have tended to be a very independent, self-actualized, I don't know, successful person, or whatever you want to say, like
Mm-hmm.
very, again, sort of contained within myself, cultivating my own self-healing, my own self-growth, all those kind of great. That's all
Mm-hmm.
great, good. And as you're speaking about all these things, I'm feeling in my body what it is to then also, of course, allow myself to be vulnerable to another person, and to open up, to be in that place of wholeness in myself, but then also to open up in relation to another.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling how the healing between me and an other shifts something really significant in me, and therefore is going to reverberate out into the world, a totally different energetic than if I'm only doing that with myself and in myself.
Right.
It is a very different feeling.
Yeah. No,
And
it
I have
is.
never noticed that before. Wow.
Cool.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's and it, again, like I go back to, it's primary for us in many ways. And in many ways in the Western world, we've cut off from saying we need anyone.
Right.
And it's true, we don't need anyone to fill in the holes. We don't need them like that. That's not what we want. But we do need, at some basic level, and want someone who can see us, someone who can hear us, someone who can touch us, someone who can cherish us.
Right.
And when you feel that, I mean, there's an expansiveness that takes place in a person that does affect the rest of the world in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. So it's not just self-gratification.
Right.
In other words, this has to do with a commitment to the larger I don't know, concept's not the right word, but the larger vow to grow, to learn, to heal, to love. And in that way, spreading that out into the rest of the world. So that each time, it's like, cell in the body, like they go towards like, they surround like cells. And like, if they have, when they connect, like they can give the same traits to the cell that's damaged, for instance, that they have, if they're a whole cell. And so that's what we are. We're like this, we're like the body, right? I mean, and if I have something that's a little bit more whole, if my wholeness, where I've healed, not everywhere, but where I've healed, if I can give that and help someone else see that in themselves, then that's beautiful and wonderful and significant.
And it reminds me of the title of the symposium, which is Re-Becoming the One, right? It's not about becoming the one. It's re-becoming the one.
Re-becoming the one, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
We're
not just being the one, right?
Yeah. Like the goal isn't for us to be an isolated island over here being God by ourselves.
No.
That is not good.
I'm not even sure God's that isolated.
Yeah. We don't need more of, isolated Godhead figure things.
No, we don't need that.
No,
even
not
real to begin with. Right.
Right. And I'm like having all these epiphanies right now. Oh my God. This is ridiculous. Yeah. No, right. Of course. A huge part of this re-becoming the one is learning. I'm only writing books on this. It's not like,
Well, we always teach and learn what we need to know, right?
Oh, this is so funny. I'm getting like class,
the crib notes, right?
Sacred Union 101 over here. And I've been like writing books on it for however many years. Okay, anyway, but this is ridiculous. Okay, yeah. Right. We are re-becoming the one together. Therefore, we need to really be conscious about this whole being together thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And do it. Also do it.
And do it. Right. Because it's the micro affects the macro and the macro affects the micro, right? I mean, we are a holographic world, we're universe. So whatever we're doing in our own individual seems small. Okay, it's significant, and no one should ever forget that. So we are, as we bring consciousness to each one of these things, we are affecting the cosmos.
Absolutely.
You know, we are bringing that to the cosmos, and all we have to do is be who we are. All we have to do is be who we are and love people and love each other. You know, it doesn't seem that hard, but it seems like we've kind of made it hard.
Well, even just knowing what it means to be who we are, it goes back to step one, right?
It's kind of a big deal and a lifelong process. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. I'm still laughing at myself. Okay.
I'm glad it can make you laugh at yourself. That's perfect.
Yeah. Oh no, this is amazing. This is the whole point of the symposium, is that, you know,
the openings.
Yeah, these conversations are generating all kinds of things for me. I know I have transformed so much just by recording these talks. It is a serious gift and pleasure for me, which I think is not a coincidence. I think this is something I definitely needed. So that's part of the point here. But for everyone
I'd also
else,
give yourself a lot of credit for doing this. So I would, please, because this is so needed. Just to have the conversations, right? It's so hard to, I mean, we don't get a chance to talk in depth about this stuff, right?
No, we don't
necessarily. And the conversations are so critical for being able to feel supported ourselves as we continue doing our own work, and also to be able to, may have openings for people to be able to look at things just a little differently. You take that crystal and the facet just turns a little bit. That's all you need sometimes, to be able to see a whole different thing, the prism of light that comes through.
Right. I have a couple other questions, but was there any other major thing that you wanted to be sure to speak to before we kind of wrap things up?
No, I mean, I think that, talking about what Sacred Unions developed into, I mean, that was what was, like I said, it was given to me. I'm just trying to teach it. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So okay. So that I want to hear about your actual class that you are teaching and what you offer in the world and all that. Before we get there though, I also wanted to maybe end with either you can choose how you would like to do this. I would love to hear from you, either in your words, or maybe if you want to lead us in a prayer, or both, or whatever. Just what is your wish for each of us individually, and then as a collective? You've touched on it a little bit, but I would love to
focus it a bit more.
Yeah. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you called to do this? And what's the ultimate goal?
Well, the first reason I'm doing it is because it's a soul pattern that I came in to do. From doing some inner work, it's like that pattern of sacred marriage or sacred union was through some astrology work that I did. That pattern has been with me for many lifetimes, and I was there when it got desecrated.
Yeah.
And so the sorrow.
And I think that's true for many of us. I will say that is also true for me in my astrology. So I would bet you many of us on this symposium
have been together before. Yes. And the sorrow that I've held in this lifetime still because of that was quite profound. And I could feel the fear in me still in my body of bringing anything forward because of what happened to us as we did bring things forward.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm doing it. And then I realized that as I was pondering that, you know, I had a whole lived experience of that with
Mm,
my 30-year relationship.
mm,
So I was living it. I wasn't really living it totally unconsciously, but I wasn't saying, "Oh, I have a sacred marriage." I wasn't saying that. We were living it. We were finding our way. And when um, so I guess what I'd like to say is to each individual is that living your own life, your own authentic life, knowing what that is, knowing what you value, knowing who you are, is a lot of work, and it's really important.
mm,
Cultivating your heart center, knowing that that's what we're here to do, to really love. And that means including loving yourself. That in doing that, we are giving back so much in so many different ways that we can't ever see, right? We won't know necessarily. And that's okay, because what's important is you're in your own embodied soul and you're
mm.
living your life in a level of consciousness with authenticity, love. And I don't know, there's a third thing, but it's not coming right now.
Yeah. Mhm.
But authenticity and love, you know, and knowing and vulnerability, I guess I would say. Um, that is doing more than anyone can really imagine.
Mm.
It's like the stone in the pond, right?
Yeah.
You throw that stone in the pond and there's a ripples out. And that's, if we could live our lives authentically from our hearts with the idea that we are love, we are divine love, in manifested form,
Mm.
that in that way we end up affecting everyone around us, no matter what our circumstances are. And we affect the cosmos, the world, the cosmos, and it goes out.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of people on the other side, or beings on the other side, that are extremely happy when even
Yeah.
one person does that.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I mean, all of the times I've talked, like, it's your inner work, it's your inner work, it's your inner work. It all comes from there. And I think people are more open to it now. And I think they're more open to it now because of the pandemic.
Mm.
And I think there's more openness to, okay, how do I really want to live my life? Who do I want to live my life with? You know, what do I value? How do I want to spend my time? These are questions that are coming up. And I think that's great. I mean, for me, someone who's been around it for 30, 40 years, I'm like, oh my God, this is so great.
Mhm.
And it makes me very excited because it makes me hopeful. Will it be easy? Not necessarily, but there's a desire there to be more conscious, I think.
Mhm.
And it doesn't look like it right now, but I think it's there. I think the seeds are there and I think they're growing.
It's wonderful.
I don't know if that answered your question, but that's what
It
came out.
does. Yeah. I mean, and I think, right. I mean, I think we see what we see in the news and the world that's absolutely horrible, atrocious, horrific. Of course, that is
I know.
reality. And I can just say, just even from doing this symposium and reaching out to people to be speakers and having people reach out to me to be speakers, and then now starting to put the symposium out to the world and getting feedback from people who are signing up, you know, and filling out the survey and all that kind of thing. Yes, I'm seeing so much
Right.
love and commitment to love and commitment to healing and commitment to being part of this change and needing such a strong, deep need and an awareness of our need for this, for exactly what you're talking about and more, you know.
And I just like to say, and that's all because you answered the call.
Aw.
True.
Yeah.
And so that's an example, actually. It's a great example for all of us. Answer the call. I don't know what your call is. Find out what it is and answer the call, and then things happen. That's the third thing. You created the third thing by yourself.
Oh, well, yeah, see, yeah. And I'm used to doing that on my own. Now my challenge is to do it with another person.
You'll get there.
To be continued.
You are doing it with other people,
Oh
actually.
no, I am. It's so many other people. Yes, I am. Right. And it actually, the last thing I'll say is this reminds me of, the Facebook meme, but I like this one where it says, if you ever wonder what one person can do, just think about what one seed does, right? And then it's a picture of a tree growing up out of a rock, and it has like a boulder, and the tree has split in half the boulder, right? But the tree, of course, started as a seed.
Right? Exactly.
And so that reminds me of what you're saying.
Same, simple. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Wonderful. So yes, please tell us about you and what you're offering, what you're doing, what you imagine yourself to be offering, whatever you want to share.
Okay. Yeah. So basically what I've started is a coaching business around sacred union, creating sacred union, it's actually called. That's the website page people can go to. And in all honesty, I mean, the course that what I just went over is the course.
Right.
What I found is I just started a pilot course, and I've found that it's not long enough because there needs to be more processing. So we've added more classes to it. But which is really great. So I'm learning, what's needed more, but that will be something I will be offering more. I don't have any new dates at this point, but I want to keep deepening that. And I see it as possible that, I might take one and just do embodied soul and just do a whole class on that. I mean, each one is deep enough that you could take a day or a day retreat or a weekend retreat and get involved. I'd love to have, it's for individuals and couples. Right now I have individuals, and some of them are part of a couple, but just the women came, which is sometimes what happens. And it's fine too. I mean, in any way that people want, because as they go back to their relationships, that'll shift, right? It'll shift what's in their relationship. So it doesn't have to be both people, but I'd love to have couples also. And gender obviously makes no difference. So, or proclivities anyway.
Orientation, gender identity.
Yeah, orientation, none of that. No, because as we've talked, right? This is all about being human. This is about being an embodied human being, living a spiritual life. Okay, all of this is going to end up helping create a better life for you and for other people. Both.
Right. And it's about that life force energy, which has no gender and it has no sexual orientation. It just is.
No, it just is. Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
It exists in all of us.
Exactly.
No who we are.
Exactly. Yeah. And sacred union exists in all of us.
Right.
So no matter what. Yes, definitely to all that. And then the coaching is the other part of it. That anyone who wants to work with me individually, and I might start some small groups. I haven't done that yet. I'll just see what the what people are interested in, but I'm available to be able to further this because I really it's my passion, and I realize it's, like I said, it's a lived passion that I have experience in, and I've done a lot of studies about anyway, a lot of studies. Yes. Well, a lot of studies, not all of it's come into culmination kind of to this point. So I'm here to serve and to awaken, I guess, in any way that someone can do that, wants to do that. So, and I haven't got it up yet, but I also I'm going to make myself available to do premarital counseling and weddings because
wonderful.
I'm an ordained minister, so I can do that.
Oh, you would be amazing at that.
Thanks.
Oh,
it's not on my website, yes, because my website is in development, shall we say. So, but that will be the third kind of offering that I'll have, individual work or small group work, couples work, and some classes, and then the wedding thing. So.
Oh, I don't know. I just feel so much happiness like welling up in my heart thinking of you with that. Wow. That's beautiful. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we'll see how it develops. I'll just have to see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the initial kind of place where I'm at with it.
Great. So if people want to get in touch with you, the best way would be,
I think is my, I didn't give you a phone number, didn't I? Probably my website would be the best thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
say one more time what your website is.
creatingsacredunion.com.
Wonderful. And that'll be with this video so people can find
It
you.
will be with the video, right? And also there's an email, Maura at creatingsacredunion.com. So
Perfect. Well, this conversation has been very eye-opening and transformative
wonderful.
for me on a personal level. And
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that I had something to say that would do that. So it's wonderful.
Oh, it's like I can feel it still in me, just turning things and change. It's like, could almost make me cry. So yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for this forum. Like I said, I feel very honored to be a part of it. And I so appreciate you and everything you've done, really.
You too. I'm so glad to know you.
Yeah, me too. Road trip.
I know. For sure. There will be more in the future to come.
Exactly. Thanks, Martha. Thanks so much.
Thank you.